this video I want to tell you about an ethics issue that I've been consulted on a couple times. So imagine that you're a physician in an emergency department and a patient comes in, and before you've even really been able to assess him, he goes into cardiac arrest. Now, you don't know anything about this patient. His heart has stopped, and so you call a code blue, nurses and doctors come pouring into the room, you're doing chest compressions, and you're getting the paddles ready to shock him. You open up his shirt, and you see that he has DNR tattooed on his chest. Now, in medicine, DNR stands for do not resuscitate. You are in the process of resuscitating this guy right now. And so you have to decide what to do. Should you continue to resuscitate him, or should you follow the tattoo and let him die? What makes this an interesting ethics case is that there are these two values in tension. So on the one hand is patient autonomy. Patient has DNR tattooed on his chest, and if he doesn't want to be resuscitated, then we should follow his wishes. But on the other hand is patient well-being. If we don't resuscitate him, he's going to die. And so that means we need to be really sure that he didn't want to be resuscitated. Now, if you're thinking about this in autonomy terms, you might think, actually, it's pretty easy. Look, this guy went through all the trouble of getting DNR tattooed onto his chest. Pretty clearly, you might think, he did not want to be resuscitated. Therefore, the obvious thing to do is to respect the tattoo and not resuscitate him. But on the other hand, there are different ways that we can introduce some skepticism into that story. So we can imagine different circumstances where the tattoo does not really mean that he doesn't want to be resuscitated, or at least that we should be a little bit skeptical about it. So one possibility is just he got the tattoo originally not wanting to be resuscitated, but he changed his mind, just hasn't got around to get the tattoo removed. Or maybe he was drunk when he got the tattoo. Maybe he got it on a whim or because of a bet. Maybe it's not even about medicine at all. So maybe he's into the Italian glam rock band DNR, and he just really likes their music, and so got the tattoo, and he wasn't thinking about how a doctor might interpret it in the first place. So all of these reasons, I mean, that we can debate about how likely they are, but each of them is possible. And so we should have a little bit of skepticism about interpreting the tattoo to mean it must be that he just didn't want to be resuscitated. This might sound pretty implausible to you, but there have actually been cases that are documented in the literature where something like this has happened. So in one well-known case, a patient came into the hospital and the doctor noticed that the patient had DNR tattooed on his chest. And so the doctor asked him, what's up with the tattoo? Does it mean that you don't want to be resuscitated? And the patient explained that he had actually been an orderly at the hospital, worked at the hospital. And one night he was gambling with his friends and he lost a bet. And the bet was that he had to get DNR tattooed on his chest. And the doctor said, don't you think that's risky? Don't you think that we won't actually resuscitate you? And the patient said, oh, I just never thought anyone would take it seriously. I just never thought that anyone would think that a tattoo actually meant that. So it's these kinds of situations, cases like this, although they might not be really, really common, I think that this kind of possibility should give us enough skepticism. I think that the right thing to do in the situation I described is to resuscitate the patient. I think we just don't know with enough confidence that the patient didn't want to be resuscitated. So I think that erring on the side of caution in this case by resuscitating him is the right thing to do. This doesn't mean that we can never act on information of any kind. So there was a case a few decades ago in Ontario, a woman who was in a car crash. She was brought to the hospital and the doctors determined that she needed a blood transfusion. A nurse went through her bag and found a wallet, and inside that was a card that said that she was a Jehovah's Witness. It was signed by her, and it said that if she ever needed a blood transfusion, she was going to refuse it because of her faith. The doctor gave her a blood transfusion anyway, and even after her family showed up and said, she's a Jehovah's Witness, she definitely wouldn't want a blood transfusion, the doctor continued to give her blood transfusions. Well, the patient recovered and she ended up suing the doctor. And a court agreed, saying that it was unreasonable for the doctor to conclude that this patient, there was not enough evidence to know what she would have really wanted. A card like that was really the only way that she had to communicate her wish about something that she cared deeply about. So in that kind of situation, I think that the doctor made a mistake. I think that all of the evidence pointed that she didn't want a blood transfusion. There's no band called I'm a Jehovah's Witness and I don't want a blood transfusion. So that kind of, there's just like not a good explanation for why she would have that sort of card. What these cases show is that in medicine, we're often making decisions under uncertainty. In lots of cases, it's just hard to know for sure what a patient would want or even what's best for a patient because we don't know how things are going to turn out. I don't think that means that we can never make decisions. I think it means that we just have to make decisions based on the best evidence that we have available, recognizing that we might get things wrong. Thank you everybody for watching. If there's another ethics case that you want to hear me talk about, please leave a comment down below.